Hey, good morning, everybody. I'm Alex Randall Kittredge here. I write the ARC Strategy newsletter here on Substack about helping millennials and Gen Z office workers, professional knowledge workers design durable career systems that survive in the post AI economy. I'm here this morning with Ilias Contras from the Free Entrepreneur. We're going to have a discussion loosely entitled, um, the free entrepreneur startup grade growth without losing your life, if that's at all possible. So I'll turn it over to Ilias to just give us a brief introduction this morning on what his Substack is all about and how he got to where he is today.
Hi, everybody, and hi, Alex. Hope everybody is well. And yeah, I could say that life brought me to make some tough decisions. I would say because I could just stand with what I got, developing my businesses, and step by step, I understood that just making money was not the only goal that I could reach in life. So I started to change my standards to make my life be more the way I could imagine it. And I got some risks. I started to take some decisions that were counterintuitive for maybe most of people, but that brought me to a life where I feel I have the control of what's happening and what's gonna happen in the future. Maybe it might not be perfect for a lot of people, but I feel like it's kind of worth it, and it's good to wake up knowing that you are deciding your own path, and that is actually very, very, very close to what your ideal looks like.
Yeah, no, I'd love to dive into that a little bit deeper. I think, most people when they have a company or when they're a founder, we're taught to sort of, whether it's business school or not, you're taught to optimize for revenue. And it sounds like you optimized for freedom instead. What was the sort of breaking point, or when did you realize that, the old definition of success that maybe folks are taught wasn't necessarily working for you?
I think it's important to say that I didn't have a standard path for especially Americans who go to a specialized university to make
Hmm.
business, and then maybe they start working for a very big company and then they open their own company. But coming from my country, Italy, where it's also very, very difficult, now a little bit more, but especially when I started, it was not so normal to get founded by someone
Right.
because you had a good idea that people could invest in. So things are changing now with angels, investors, and stuff like that that are kind of globalized, at least more globalized than when I started, but in my context was very, very different. So for me, becoming an entrepreneur was more like a step by step process. So I started to work as a bartender actually
Hmm.
to pay my bills while I was studying university. I was doing psychology, so nothing to do with business, marketing, or that stuff. And from there, I understood that I wanted more. I wanted to create something in my life. And the path that I saw that could be possible for me in that position was to open my own club. So my first bar was actually my first little business,
Yeah.
and from there I opened other things that gave me the possibility to scale until I made up a business that was made of 40 plus people and was making a few millions of income per year and was growing year by year. And from there, at that point, I understood that just having that business was not everything I wanted. So during one of my trips, I met Costa Rica, where is actually the place that I'm living and that you are seeing in the background.
It's beautiful.
And yeah, and summer all over the year. I think that especially in this period of the year for you in the States might be something nice to see and think about. So when I met this country, I saw a lifestyle that was interesting for me. and I tried to test living here,
Mm.
and I understood that my life could be so much different from the one that I had in the city. I was living in Rome and after in Milan, so even if people who are watching this video might not have seen them, but they are kind of big cities, if even if not big as New York or Los Angeles. And nothing. I started to reorganize my life, my business, to make it possible for me to detach from the office and to start living from here and to have days just the way that I wanted. Of course, this decision is what I was talking about before. That is taking some risks because, of course, not being in the business might become kind of dangerous for the people who work with you, for the equilibrium that you have inside of the company, for a lot of things that might make things not work as well as they were doing before, no? I mean,
Right.
one thing is to be with the people that you're working with, and another thing is to be on the other side of the ocean with a different time zone,
Yeah.
and nobody can talk to you in many moments. I mean, you can imagine an emergency as a real emergency, you know?
Right.
But actually, things worked out because I structured this kind of life through the years. So I didn't just say, okay, you know what, I'm not coming back to Italy this summer. I'm just staying in Costa Rica. But I needed 3, 4 years to make it possible. So I hired people, I trained them, I tested staying 2 to 3 months in Costa Rica during the
Mm.
year in order to see how things were going during that time, and that actually it worked out. So I would say I created something that was really working out, and the company still kept growing. So I guess I did a good job, and the people, of course, around me. And then the following step was actually to sell my quotes in 2024 and restart doing something new and beginning the process from zero again. That is one of those counterintuitive things, but I felt like I wanted to do even more something that I felt mine. So I'm right now I am in this process.
So I'm curious, and I have a few questions from what you said. As you know, I'm American. I'm based here in New York, and sometimes we think of America as pretty entrepreneurial. Europe, is a little bit more of a social safety net. So some people argue that disencourages folks from being entrepreneurs. Do you agree with that, or do you find that life's pretty good in Europe? Why would you risk it and start your own business?
Actually, Europe and Italy in particular is a place where entrepreneurs are not very well seen, I would say,
Hmm.
from one side, because there is a kind of social belief that the entrepreneur is the person who takes advantage of other people, who steals money, that doesn't pay taxes, and stuff like that. So there is a very negative atmosphere around
Yeah.
the name of the entrepreneur. And actually, even the state, so bureaucracy and laws and stuff, is not really helping entrepreneurial activities. So everything looks like you're doing something that you shouldn't do.
Hmm.
So it really feels like, and it's not only a personal opinion, but uh, being an entrepreneur, and I did a lot of marketing courses, business courses, administration courses. So I had a chance to meet a lot of other entrepreneurs in totally different markets from mine, and all of them agreed that it feels like kind of a war against the state, against other people, and probably it's not the very same in the United States or in other countries, but in Italy, having your job as an employee feels so much better than
Hmm.
trying to go through all these difficulties and problems. And uh, I heard sometimes people saying, if you do it in New York, you can do it everywhere. And I would say, if you can become a successful entrepreneur in Italy, then you can really do it everywhere.
Oh, I like that. Yeah, yes. Oftentimes we associate New York with being tough, but to your point, I've heard European bureaucracy can be a killer. Especially I don't know. Nowadays, there are companies with the EU that try and sell products to different countries in the EU, but each country has their own rules and laws. There isn't really a uniform framework yet. I'm curious for your business. When you moved to Costa Rica, did you sell your business? I know you said you were running it for a while, but have you sold it, or are you still involved in the management of the company now that you're halfway around the world?
And after 4 years, more or less, that I was already living in Costa Rica, having the business and still being in the business, I sold just my quotes. We were two partners, so we had 50% of those, and I sold actually to him my quotes, so I'm not involved anymore in that business.
Got it. No, that makes sense. And I think I was reading some of your work. You wrote a piece called 12 Strategic Moves to Grow Your Business in 2026. And I was curious, you know, which of the two moves that you identified are sort of no brainers for maybe a one person business, for a solopreneur, or which are two that are maybe suited to more of a funded startup?
For sure, I would say to find the bottleneck. I mean, being a solopreneur, of course, you are the
Yeah.
main bottleneck, but the main thing is to have the vision of what your business could become. So, of course, everybody who is a solopreneur has a choice. For me as well, right now in this new phase of my life, my professional life, that is to become a very good paid, very well paid professional, or to become actually an entrepreneur
Mm,
leveraging other people's work. Of course, this doesn't mean to stay on the beach drinking cocktails while other people are doing
right.
stuff, but is not to be just alone. Like as a solopreneur, you can be somebody that still has other people, has a team of people working with him, for him, and doing stuff. No, so I think it's very important, especially for solopreneurs, to understand where they are heading to. Because if you just want to be a very well paid professional, then you should focus your energy to certain things and maybe less on others. But if you're thinking of kind of scaling your business and so to make some processes uh, being able to be done by other people, then you have to think about, okay, what can be delegated of my work to other people? What will I need when it will be the right moment? So who do I need and how can I make these people or this person doing that stuff for me and with me. So, because as solopreneurs and in general, I would say every entrepreneur and professional has one limited resource that is time.
Right.
So, if you have the vision on where you're going to, you can say, okay, part of my time has to be put to that. And taking this decision, I think it's very key because I feel it myself right now. So it's very important for me when the energy might be not as high as in the morning when I'm surfing to say, okay, maybe I could rest right now. Maybe I could make more content. Maybe I could make some marketing for myself. Or maybe I could work on that product, that thing that could make me really scale in a year or two.
Hmm.
So if you have that in your mind, the way you use your time can be very, very different. So point number one is this, understanding not just the actual bottleneck, but what could be the future bottleneck and work having
Mhm.
that in mind. Uh, and the second point, I believe testing. Testing and having the honesty with yourself first to not just do things that you like. That is very easy when you're a solopreneur because you don't have
Right.
a counterpart that says, "Bah, I don't agree with that." You
Not
don't have
today.
that voice. It's just your voice doing things that you feel right, no? So testing and tracking and understanding numbers is a way to be honest with yourself and understand what can actually leverage your work.
No, that's really helpful. I think, I was reading something else you wrote too that was interesting to me, especially over the last 4 or 5 years. Everyone talks about inflation. And, one thing that you've said entrepreneurs need to do is to run faster than inflation, which makes sense. But what are the first three, I guess, levers that you have to outrun inflation? It's probably not just working harder. It must be something else because we're all up against the same pressures when it comes to inflation in our limited time.
There is a course that I'm working on and will be published hopefully soon. That is called the free leverages of the. Let me translate it in English. uh, okay, I will tell it later. By the way, there are free leverages that are kind of very important and are actually the only real way to make a business grow. And if you work not only on one of those three, but on the three together, then you're going to have an exponential growth.
Mm,
So the first leverage is pricing.
hmm.
So when you have an offer, and we tend to think that might be costly or not enough, or might people might think that is not going to be worthy to pay for that price. So it's a problem that everybody has, no? So the first thing that I would really focus on, and that it actually is what I do with my clients, so the companies that I consult, is to make tests on this thing. So if people really think that your offer, what you do, your service, your product is valuable, then growing even by 3%, 4%, 5%, 10% should be kind of no brainer.
Right.
But if you do this with all the clients or the customers that are already buying from you, it means that without any marketing, without any more effort in sales, without just any plus, you're just getting more from single thing that you're doing. So you're just leveraging the effort and the time that you're already using for your job. Okay. Of course, there will be a moment when growing and growing and growing your pricing, there will be some people saying, no,
Right.
I'm not buying that. Okay,
Yeah.
but what we should keep in our mind is that not 10 people on 10 should buy what we sell, because probably it means that our target focus is not that focused.
Mm,
So it's good to have maybe 70, 60, even 50% conversion rate, because that means that probably we are working more with our best possible clients and
yeah.
leaving behind those that are not really fit for us. So trying to be kind with everybody is probably not the real way to leverage your business, because if you lower your price in order to make everybody happy, every client, probably you're not helping the right clients for you that can make you have the best results, the best testimonials, and even the best gratification for the things that you're doing with them. So leveraging the pricing often gets people to do better things with better clients and better results. So this is the leverage number one. The second thing is the frequency. So everybody is obsessed with having more clients. No, we're
Mm,
all looking for having more people buying our stuff. But actually, if we develop a business model that can work with even more or less the same amount of clients, that of course can grow, but can be sustainable with the same customer list, then the frequency is one of the keys that we should focus on. So on the first side, we worked on the pricing. Then we work on the frequency. So already these two leverages are working the one with the other. And then just in the end, the third leverage would be augmenting the number of customers.
hmm.
So if we have a better pricing, a good frequency that is getting higher, and then we even get more clients, The first two leverages will influence, of course, all the new clients that are getting into your list. So the three things actually work together, and this is why we talk about exponential growth. Because if we make better the all the three leverages, like 10%, 10%, plus 10%, each of them, in the end, you're not getting a plus 30%, but you're getting a little bit more.
Right.
Okay. So this is also a mathematic thing. And this is the way that I believe that you can work to overpass inflation and in general to have real growth through your business. So focusing on these three things.
I think you're so right. And I run my own consultancy. I work with technical CEOs and technical startup founders. And to your point earlier, I live in New York, and, I guess for some folks, I'm probably considered quite expensive. But when I get proposals, and recently I've been getting a few from Asia to work with them, I send them, I meet with them, and then I send them my proposal. And if the line goes quiet, I realize they weren't the right client for me, because, to your point, sometimes it's better to be upfront and say, hey, I might be too expensive for you, as opposed to, lowering your level of service or changing what you provide to try and accommodate more clients. I think that's a recipe for burnout. It just makes you work harder, longer hours, more, splitting up your attention, and you're making less money. So I definitely agree with your point on pricing there. I think pricing is such an undervalued tool for entrepreneurs. I guess switching gears a little bit, you are in Costa Rica. It does look beautiful behind you. You've warned folks not to romanticize, moving to a tropical paradise, and that the surferpreneur brand that you have nowadays. What are the top illusions that folks online, maybe here on Substack, have about, quote unquote, moving to paradise, that you wish you could correct for them, or that you would give them advice about?
When I moved to Costa Rica, I wasn't escaping from nothing. So I was happy with my life. I liked the place where I was. I mean, Rome, Italy, it's a beautiful place, probably the most beautiful country in the world. But when I came here after traveling a lot around the world, I felt like I like this more. So it really felt like I met something that was more fit for me. So many people who are in the in the circle and are having all days same to the others and feel like there is no escape from them. They dream of this paradise that could be a tropical place like mine, or I don't know, slowing or skiing, sorry, all around the year.
Right.
And everybody has his dream, no? Uh, but sometimes we say in Italy that the grass of the neighbor is greener, is
Oh,
always
yeah.
greener, no?
Yeah.
So I think it's something international, and that probably is true because different is always more exotic and feels like there are no negative points in that, and you see only the positive things. So of course it's beautiful having summer 12 months a year,
Mm,
but when you live in summer 12 months a year, you will start missing a little bit as no being able to go skiing, maybe having the chance to change your dress to have a different season.
right.
That for me is worth it, but for some people might be not so nice. And this is, of course, a very little and stupid example, but there are many things, very side things of living outside and living in a place where you didn't grow that you need to absorb and to understand in order to make what I would say a conscious choice. So I would never suggest anybody to just move to Costa Rica or anywhere else, even just changing a city. But still, I would have a kind of entrepreneurial approach of testing, of trying what it really means to live abroad. And actually, this is what I did. No, like I was saying before, I did the first time one entire month here alone. Then after 2 years, I came back with the person that would have become my wife, and we stayed in Costa Rica for 2 months. And the following year, we came for 3 months, and again 3 months. So this way, it was not anymore the enthusiasm of a change made in a sudden way and in a
Right.
moment of craziness, but it was like a rational choice that we adopted because we really wanted to live that kind of life, and we wanted more and more and more, even after knowing all the side effects of living in a tropical country like Costa Rica, where, of course, you don't have the same level of services that you have in Rome or Milan or the United States, where if you want to get something from Amazon, you have to wait for weeks or for months and not a couple of days.
Yeah.
And if you want to go to a hospital, probably you need to take a helicopter, and the list might be long. So it's very important to understand not only what's good of a place, but what could be the negative points, because the place where we live not always is the solution to our problems.
Mm.
I feel that many people who move abroad feel like they want to restart, no, to begin something new, because the new will take off all the problems that they had before. But if your problems are inside here, you can go anywhere you want. You can move even to the moon, and you are still going to have the same business model or the same kind of work. I mean, unless you really change the way you approach to life. So for my approach of life, being here makes things better because I love surfing, I love the ocean, and I can do it. I can go to the beach every single day. And of course, in Italy, I had to wait for 9 months before meeting summer again. So this was a point that for me was very important, and I didn't like crowd. So here to meet a person, I have to walk probably for 500 meters or a kilometer.
Mm.
And there are things that are fit for me, so make things better for me. But as I was saying, I was not escaping a life that I hated. I just found a place that resounded better with my mentality and the way I wanted to live my life. So as long as people do a change with this kind of mentality, I think moving abroad can be a super success. Otherwise, if it's just, I hate my life, I hate the place I am, and I need something new, the risk to make a wrong move and even to find yourself in a situation that is even worse than the one you had before is very high.
Yeah, no, I agree with you on that. I think there's a great phrase in English that I've heard a few times: "Wherever you go, there you are." So, to your point, no matter where you go, you're the same person in all of those places. I guess for me personally, I have experience living abroad. I lived in England twice, and I think there's some research about that. If someone's lived abroad from where they grew up or their native country, it almost proves they're a little bit more entrepreneurial because they're choosing to abandon a previous life or the comfort and safety of home and really start over. I know when I moved to England, I don't know if it was similar for you when you went to Costa Rica. I moved to England with 2 suitcases. And, looking back on that now, I'm like, I don't know if I could move today with 2 suitcases. But at the time, it's a really different mindset. I think switching gears a little bit, we're almost getting close to time, but I'd love to talk about money, happiness, and founder psychology. I know you mentioned you studied psychology as well in university. You've said that success means very little without freedom, and for solopreneurs or maybe seed or startup founders, how do you suggest folks define what enough means, whether that's money, growth or status before seeking that freedom that you talk about?
I believe that nowadays we have an idea of money that is kind of wrong, I would say, for many people, because we think money is the goal. And of course, money is super important. I'm not saying anything different, but sometimes we think we have this kind of thoughts like, if I want to be able to do what I really like, I need more money.
Mm,
But sometimes to do those things doesn't require that amount of money that you're thinking about. But you're just thinking that if you make enough, then you're going to have the time to enjoy what you really like. So this way, you're actually probably never going to reach your goal, your target, whatever it is. But you're just running, 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 running. So what made me change my mind was to start living and of course growing my business. So the priority number one for me in the morning became surfing,
mm,
because it's that thing that if I have some free time is the first thought that I have and the first thing that I feel like I would like to do. So for me, surfing, for other people could be, I don't know, making a walk in the park or making a weekend off somewhere, going to play tennis. I don't know, whatever it is, staying
yeah.
with your partner. Everybody has the things that make them think, okay, this day was really worth living. And if we start to sacrifice those main things just to make more money, probably we are not being so wise, because we are renouncing to our present to a possible future. I mean, we never know what's going to happen today, tomorrow, and we might not have the chance to do certain things in 1 year or 10 years.
Mm,
We don't know how long is going to be our time. So I would say that giving at least part of our day, and I would say every day, so not just Saturday or Sunday, but every single day, even working day, dedicated to those things that make ourselves feel like today was a great day. Not just because I did something in work, but because I did the things that I really loved, makes you change the mentality and the idea of success. One of the phrases that I heard in psychology that kind of hit me was that happiness was the distance between your ideal self and the way you saw yourself in that moment.
mm,
So when I think about it, I think, okay, what would I be myself to be like at my age in this moment? And I would say that I would like this person to live in a place where doesn't make cold and can go surfing, can have a walk with his wife and his daughter in the close to the ocean, and live very simply, surrounded by nature. So I don't pretend that much, maybe, but those are the things that make me feel happy. And as long as I have that in my life, I feel successful because I feel close to my ideal self.
mm.
So I think that this could be helpful for somebody, and a different way to look at the idea of success.
I guess going off of that, if you had advice for folks, what belief about work or money did you have maybe in your 20s or your 30s that you now see as actively dangerous for founders or entrepreneurs?
I've always felt I had to do more and
Mm,
more and more and more. I remember when I was in my 20s, with my first bar that I mentioned before, actually things were not going well, not at all. So that was probably the worst period of my life, because I was working so much, even 18 hours a day, without knowing if that was going to be enough to pay the bills at the end of the month. And I wouldn't wish something like that to anybody, even my own worst enemy. So, in that kind of condition, of course, I needed to make more money. So
right.
I was obligated to that. And but even when things went better, I still had this growth pattern, and sometimes I still have it because it's part of myself to try to make things better, get better, learn every day something new. And I believe that the way we use our time is probably the key to make things work the way we want. Because one very important change for me was when I noticed that of all the things that I was doing, there were some that could really make my business scale. But I was doing that stuff as much as other things that were much more operational. And when I understood that and I started um, using more and more time for doing the things that were really important for my business and not taking care of the others because they were maybe urgent, but they were not so important to make it
Right.
grow and make it structure, then things change for me. So if I had understood that earlier, it would have helped me a lot. But sometimes you need to bang your head on the wall to really understand the lesson. And I think I did it a few times, even quite hard.
Nice. No, I agree with you there. I think, I used to work for some very wealthy folks, and, no matter how much money you have in your wallet or in your bank account, we all only have 24 hours in the day. It's the same amount of time. So really, when you think of it that way, you can have all the money in the world, but you still don't have any more time than anyone else. And you really that's the real limited resource that we have, especially as entrepreneurs. No one seems to have enough time these days, especially with everything that's going on in the world. I think as we come to a close, I'd love to get some concrete advice, for the solopreneur or the entrepreneur who's feeling trapped by their own success. What is one uncomfortable but concrete decision that you challenge them to make in the next 30 days?
I would say to renounce to some money to make things that they never did before. That could be delegating some operation to somebody, and could be investing in a professional that maybe does something that they can do,
Hmm.
but of course doing that together with other really important things would still mean that, as we just said, the time is limited and you cannot just be three people, four people at the same time. Sometimes I wrote these notes on Substack saying that delegating to people who were maybe for performing at my 60%
Yeah.
on some functions were still valuable, because three people at 60, it means 60, 120,
Right.
180% of what I could do. So it was still worth it if, of course, that delegation could free some time for me that helped my business grow. So probably this is the advice I would give to have the courage to get less in order to grow more.
I think that's so important. I agree with you there. I actually was having a conversation with a founder who, had trouble delegating, and they would say, "Well, the standards of my employees aren't as high as mine. They can't do the work as well as I can do it." And I had to explain to them. I think us entrepreneurs or folks that work for ourselves, we're often some of the hardest workers, the hardest on ourselves potentially. And we have to understand that you can't always expect everyone else to work at your standards. Maybe you just solve the problem for us. If you work at 100% and your employees work at 60, well, you just need four employees. And maybe that's the secret.
Exactly. Exactly. Because the most important resource that we have is time, as we said many times during this conversation. So three people, four people, in the end, will make more than you can do just alone by yourself. And if we start looking at this way, I think the idea of delegation won't be anymore that scary. I mean, it's normal that for our business we are the best one in the world, because nobody is going to care as much as we do to what we do. So it would be strange the contrary, no? So if we accept that other people will make mistake, but still will make more that we could do in that very same time, maybe it's easier to accept those mistakes and those lower performances. In Costa Rica, there is a say that is pura vida. This is the country famous
Mm,
for pura vida. Translated literally, it means pure life. But living here after a few years, you understand that the real meaning is don't care. Like it
mm.
doesn't matter. So having this kind of approach to business and delegation in particular can be very helpful. Like they will make mistakes. Who cares?
Yeah.
Because if they were not doing those mistakes, it would have meant that I had to do that work instead of using that very same time to do something more important or even to spend some times with my daughter. So who cares? Pura vida.
Oh, I love that. I think that's a great note to end on. You know, you're an entrepreneur, you're working for yourself, you have your employees, pura vida, you know, your employees might make mistakes, folks might make mistakes, but who cares? You're not bothered by it. I love that.
Thank you. And in the end, if we want to grow ourselves, grow the business, of course, part of the job has to be training those people, so helping them to do better. So you can't just say, okay, I need you to do that for me. At the beginning, there will be more mistakes, but if you work on the people, there will be one day, sooner or later, that these people might even get better than you on that specific function. So it's just part of the process, and everything starts with accepting that at the beginning is going to be tougher, and of course there will be mistakes and problems, but it's part of the process. If you don't do different things, you're not going to get different results. So better than nothing.
I love that. Well, thank you, Ilias, for joining us today. Again, I'm Alex Randall Kittredge. I write the ARC Strategy Substack here. I write for knowledge workers and office workers who are trying to build a durable career in systems that aren't designed for them. I was joined today by Ilias Quantras, the free entrepreneur. He definitely has a better schedule than I do. He was out surfing this morning before taking this interview. So I'll let you get back to beautiful Costa Rica. Have a good day. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. You too. Bye. Bye, everyone.
Bye.